All right, may have jumped the gun a bit. Charlie Dickey is not officially fired yet. I'll bet my left testy his role is going to be a little bit different. I will also be willing to get a Christmas tattoo of Mike Gundy saying, "I am not a man, I'm only 37," if he does in fact still hold his job.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall, and thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. You just need to go to FanDuel.com to get started today. Meanwhile, we get started in some semblance of a retraction. Yes, Charlie Dickey has not officially been fired yet. And yes, Charlie Dickey is still physically on the field helping out. Keyword there is, I would say, helping out. I do not entirely buy that he's good to go completely. Why? Because I do dedicate my life to this craft and this profession, which is why we can get the Alan Bowman information. We can get the Zane Flores information. We can get the Garrett Rangel, Mayualake Smith information, just like we can get Garrett Wilson being on the third string depth chart, just like we can have the information about the coaches that are not going on the recruiting trail. And by the way, we've been covering this stuff since last Friday. But I am wrong about the Dickey thing. And I find that kind of hard to believe. How are we right about everything else, but not about Charlie Dickey? But it's okay. The case remains that he is still there, which to me begs the question as to why. Why is Charlie Dickey still here? Why is Kasey Dunn still here? I mean, it almost feels like we're getting to the point that Kasey Dunn has a photo of Mike Gundy in Viva La Mexico at a donkey show for him to retain his position. Now, as it goes to Charlie Dickey, my guess would be that while he is currently still helping, and there might be a transitionary period with Jason McIndoe, Gundy's his buddy. And you're right. They don't make midseason changes, even though we needed one. And it felt like for the first time we were actually going to get it. All right, I digress. And yes, Teabag, I hear you, man, or I heard your little rant about me. Evidently, if you get something wrong, you lose all credibility. You have to bat 1,000 in journalism to have any credibility. I find that hard to believe, but I will say that over 400 some episodes, you could probably go back and look and check the rates, and we're probably at least 90%. Why? Because I do spend all day, every day, dedicating my life to this stuff. Why? Because it's important to me, and I want information that we've never had access to before. And yes, I do have good relationships with several people inside the facilities. I do get to help in recruiting and scouting. I have brought Cowboys to Oklahoma State University on scholarship. I have set up official visits and unofficial visits. So I do get to help out in a lot of capacities, even outside of football. I've been able to help dudes go to places other than Oklahoma State because I have dedicated my life to this. This is what I do. I do put a significant amount of time and research into this information before I put it out. I know good and daggone well that there's a decent amount that we discuss on here that they don't want to talk about, that they don't want getting out, which brings me to this. If I'm getting chastised over the Charlie Dickey thing, that is fine. That is okay. But can anybody pretend that without the shows since Friday, that we would know anything about Nick Martin or anything about Zane Flores or anything about the current 3D depth chart or anything about the fact that Alan Bowman is now holding a clipboard instead of a football or anything about the fact that we have coaches that were told not to go on recruiting trips because you need to stay your asses at home. And we talked about the coaches that were filling in to go take over those recruiting trips. Just like Gonzo's going to go talk to Tatum, Deuce Bell, and Royal Capel and Matrell Lopez. This is the same acquisition of information, just like the Spencer Sanders stuff. So nothing has changed except my connections inside Oklahoma State University just continue to get bigger and bigger every single year, which is why I unabashedly say a lot of this stuff on the show. I am extremely passionate, loud, boisterous kind of dude. I am not a professional journalist that went and got a bunch of degrees. I'm not that guy. But what I am is a dude who has enough people that, I don't know, trust him, because I have not put people in precarious situations. I mean, you go back. We've had so many former Cowboys on this show, NFL players on this show, current Cowboys on this show. We've had coaches on this show. Why? Because I do a lot in the background to make sure that I'm giving accurate information. So I do apologize if I was a little quick about the Charlie Dickey information, because I was told by some of those people, hey, man, you probably should have waited a little bit to put the Dickey stuff out because they're not even really finished with starting the transitionary process yet. Okay, fine. I'm in over my skis. I jumped ahead of this one. But I've also sat on my hands and I've tried to play the little SID Oklahoma State media style game and not put out stuff just to find out that Robert Allen is going to put it out, right? Everybody's like, hey, keep this Kendall Daniels stuff on the down low. We don't want people knowing. Okay, cool. Oh, crap. It's out now because of Robert Allen. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Because if you wait, then you're just quote unquote parroting off of other people. But if you put everything out first and you get one thing wrong, then your credibility is shot and everybody says that you're a big old bag of D's and a massive waste of time. Yeah, I'm a little bit fired up on this one. Because again, if you're 90% accurate, they're going to focus on the 10% negative, which I guess is just part of this gig. I will also say that there was a decent amount of people on social media last night saying that, yeah, this locked on guy gets a lot of stuff right. But until McLean Baxley comes out with it, I don't necessarily believe it. Okay, cool. I said that I don't know if McLean Baxley is going to talk about the offensive lineman situation, the offensive line coach situation, but I know good and daggone well he knows about Bowman, he knows about Rangel, he knows about the depth chart, and he knows about the coaches that aren't being allowed to go on the recruiting trip, so on and so forth, just like he knows about the Justin Wright stuff we talked about Friday, the Zane Flores stuff we talked about Friday. So I would imagine he will say something about all the other stuff. And sure enough, literally not minutes later, he puts this out. Hello, it is Wednesday night, and there are rumors swirling. Here's what I've heard this week through sources. Garrett Rangel has been taking reps with the ones and is expected to be the starter in Provo. Correct. Alan Bowman is still with the team. Accurate, but he's holding a clipboard instead of a football. Offensive line coach Charlie Dickey has not been fired. Mike Gundy has never made in-season coaching changes during his 20-year tenure. He also said Saturday that he is not going to make wholesale changes. Dickey's current contract is through the end of 2025 season, working to learn more. Okay, that may be the case. And I would be frustrated to find out that we're paying him his original money to essentially be a helper, to be Santa's helper for Jason McAnoo out on the field. I know he's out there doing some stuff right now. I get it. I'm tracking. I don't buy it completely. And I definitely don't think that he's going to retain his job, nor do I think Dunn's going to retain his job either. But again, I bet my left testy on Charlie Dickey. Here's another thing from McLean. I cannot confirm the status of Zane Flores' injury, but he is not expected to play this season. Talking with him in the preseason, I got the sense that Flores really enjoys Stillwater and Oklahoma State. I don't believe he'll leave this offseason. Absolutely accurate. He's just got a brand new house and he's got new roommates moving in here before too long. He's a happy camper. He's set up. He's squared away. He's not going any daggone place. Lastly, expect the linebacker Justin Wright to be back for the BYU game. In what capacity, we're not sure. Remember, he played 2 games last year before dealing with a ACL, MCL partial tear. And he's played 19 snaps since 2022. I have heard, well, as of last week when we talked about it, that it was going to be 2 to 3 weeks before he was 100% ready to rock and roll, game speed, and get out there and bang heads. So I would love to see him in the BYU game out there doing the daggone thing. But from what I've gathered, it's still going to be another week or 2 before he's 100% out there, full speed, banging heads, and ready to go. If Coach Dickey is still there, that is great, I guess. Or is it? If Charlie Dickey is still there, and Kasey Dunn is still there, what are we doing? I would argue that if we fired Charlie Dickey, it would give us more hope than sticking with the status quo. We all understand that Mike Gundy is very reluctant to fire people. We all understand he's never done that midseason, which is precisely why this made the most amount of sense. And again, the same Spencer information, depth chart, Bowman, all of that fun jazz over the course of time is through acquisition of information. I do apologize for putting the Dickey stuff out a little too prematurely, evidently, but I just don't completely buy it. I do buy that he is helping Jason McIndoe, or he's going to be helping Jason McIndoe when they start doing the BYU install stuff. Just like I expect Glidden to take on a little bit of a different role than just simply being an analyst. And just like I do expect Garrett Rangel to have the ability to extend drives, which would do at least something beneficial for the defense. I believe in a lot of things still within this team, but I also believe that not firing anybody midseason is a massive mistake. And I do think that it adds even another layer of culpability to my Gundy. This has now become a trend. And instead of breaking the trend, we're now hearing, calm down, slow down, we're going to stick with it. Again, just don't completely buy it. Speaking of buying stuff, have you got tickets to watch Garrett Rangel do the daggone thing in Provo, Utah, the home where Steve Young played, Ty Detmer, Bronco Mendenhall? Get your tickets with Game Time. Game Time is the bee's knees for all of your ticket getting needs. We already know that the travel is stressful, getting the hotels and the rental cars and dealing with all of the craziness that goes along with all of that it's taxing, and it's completely unnecessary if you download the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app today so you can get the best deals on not only sports, but also music, comedy, and theater. Everybody in the game is going to be rushing to see what the Cowboys can do in Provo, Utah. You need to make sure that you get on the same page with everybody else. They have the best ticketing policy in the industry, and they also give you the best customer service with anything involving this ticketing industry. The seat view is a panoramic shot of exactly where you're going to be, so there's no ridiculousness of you getting put in the wrong section in the wrong place. The lowest price guarantee means that Game Time will credit you back 110% of the difference if you do, in fact, find something better. Take the guesswork out of you buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, make sure you create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today because you already know what it is. It's Game Time. From Game Time to Trent Hallenstein. We all know that Ollie Gordon is boys with Garrett Rangel. So Ollie Gordon, much like some of the offensive linemen, some of the wide receivers, and likely some of the defensive dudes, have been waiting on this moment. Now this moment has arrived. I love the transitionary stuff for Alan Bowman. I think he's going to be a good coach because the cerebral side of the game, I would imagine, is not an issue for him. Physiologically, sure, he had some issues over the course of his 7-year career, but 7 years in this level of college football, he's seen more than everybody else when it comes to a film perspective. Defensively, he's seen more coverages, and he should be able to diagnose how to maximize the play calls. And we've all heard it before. Sometimes those who can't do can teach. This is going to be a good time for Alan Bowman. I think this is a smart move. I think this is a good call. And it would be kind of cool if it's beneficiary to him rolling it into a legitimate GA-style role after this season. It'll be fun to see how the progression for the quarterbacks go. Because Tim Rattay's caught a lot of heat. Charlie Dickey's caught a lot of heat. Jason McIndoe's caught a lot of heat. Deservedly so. But what if it's likely all Dunn's issue? Well, not all, but it's very possible. And just like it is very possible that Ollie Gordon does not get to, go 100% for the BYU game. He did have obviously a little bit of an injury in the last game. Now he was helping Garrett get warm and jumping up and down on the bleachers. So if that's any indication, he should be ready to rock and roll. But we've already produced the question. Do you think, let me know down in the comment section, that it is intelligent for Ollie Gordon to continue to take snaps here? I don't want him off of the field, But I don't want him to have regrets either. I don't want him to look back and be like, if I wouldn't have come back to Oklahoma State for my extra year, I wouldn't have had this injury, or my draft stock wouldn't have fallen this far, or I wouldn't have had these limitations, so on and so forth. Surely he did not expect this to be the turnout of him returning. But we know who Ollie Gordon is. We know what he can do. We also know that he's getting hit in the backfield 52% of the time. We also know that he does have at least a little bit of a minor injury that he's dealing with. Should be good to go by BYU, right? But does this not mean we shouldn't be getting some more Trent Allen? Kasey Dunn, I think he's done pretty daggone well, but even he hasn't really had the opportunity yet to get a big enough hole to make an explosion. So if he's going to be the lightning guy, you have to have the thunder package to go with it to make the most amount of sense. And if Ollie Gordon is banged up at all, to me, this is a good time to see another one of the younger guys, and being Trent Allen. Because Trent Allen, the 6'3", 250-pound running back from Indiana, can in fact return for the next 2 years, I believe. So if we're going to play some of these young guys and we're going to see what we have, I think Trent Allen should be getting an ample amount of opportunities in Provo, Utah. The dude did lead Indiana in rushing, and if you look back now, Indiana's having a whale of a season. And the offensive line at Indiana is doing very, very well. But he was still able to carve out a nice role for himself there as more of a power back. Okay, that's fine. We can utilize that here and now, especially if we're going to kind of change some things and get a little bit more mobile with Garrett Rangel and Majestic Smith. It's a perfect time to see some Trent Allen. And it's also a good opportunity to use him as a battering ram to kind of help with getting the opposite team going sideline to sideline. If you can mix it up, get the ball outside, and then feed somebody like Trent Allen outside, get Kasey Dunn outside, feed Trent Allen, you're going to be able to wear down a team, which we obviously have not been able to do yet because we haven't sustained drives long enough to wear down anybody. I mean, dating back to week 1. So again, I think this move for Bowman is awesome. I think that Garrett Rangel, with a full little over a week with the ones, is going to be able to prove that he's more capable than a lot of the fan base feels. And it also just seems like, common sense that we're going to start rotating more dudes and doing more things. To me, it starts at practice, right? Monday, they did a decent amount of conditioning, as they should. And I do know that there was likely an attempt to try to see if Zane could be ready to rock and roll. And you never know. Guys, Majestic Smith is really good. So if he's taking some of the Zane red zone, 4th and 1 style packages right now, it makes a lot of sense that we're also going to see at least a little bit of Majestic Smith when it comes to the BYU game. I'm excited to see the Garrett Rangel train. I'm excited to see it, especially now with a large group of the players behind him and behind it. But I need to see some more Trent Allen and Kasey Dunn. I'm not forgetting the fact that we likely can get AJ Green back at the end of the year. But if he's going to assume the role as the power guy, let's see what the power guy can do in a situation where we need to try to extend drives to just simply give our defense opportunities to rest, recuperate, breathe, and get an idea of a different way to attack. Schematically, we've had issues. This is a good opportunity to fix the issues. And I do think that if you add in somebody like a Trent Allen, it can relieve some of the carries off of Ollie Gordon, but it can also help with the inside game as long as we're utilizing some of the outside stuff to get the defense to go sideline to sideline. Just like I also feel, thankfully, to Chuba Hubbard and some of the other NFL Cowboys, we all have the opportunity to make some money. So you need to get squared away today with FanDuel. FanDuel is the bee's knees for everything that you need. Whenever you are looking into potentially hammering the over, I know this season hasn't gone swimmingly in the hammer the over department, but Chuba Hubbard seems to have us covered. And this season, the NFL is allowing you to get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game and you think something is about to happen, you can sense it, you can feel it, You can now check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're placing your bets from. You can get started today with $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Again, that is 200 bones back in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to get squared away today with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, for a reason. All right, so just like I'd like to see a little bit of, some Trent Howell in action. I appreciate the extra intensity on Monday. I don't appreciate the last 2 days being somewhat of a light practice. Now, I get it. On a bye week, this is a good opportunity to get somewhat healthy, to get a lot of your starters, a little bit of breathing room. I agree with that. But we're struggling pretty mightily. So instead of doing a light practice or doing some thud stuff, we not be going full speed, balls out with the young dudes? Like, yes, get the starters, veterans, injured dudes, all the rest that they need. Do some walkthrough stuff. I get all that. But I would really hope that we're not taking it easy. We're not having light practices for the backups. This is their opportunity to step in, fill a void, and show what they're capable of in a little bit of a bigger role. I don't know about you. Let me know down in the comment section, but I feel like some of this light practice thud stuff is part of the reason we're kind of soft on the offensive line and the defensive line and in the tackling department. Last season, we had the same issue, and we'd heard from Mike Gundy himself that we had to change things after Iowa State. And for the rest of the season, they were in attack mode, and they were going to practice like they were going through 2-a-days every day. And if injuries and little things popped up here and there, they were just going to have to deal with it because they physically were not doing enough to get it done. So because of some of the light practices, some of the thud work stuff, some of the drill stuff, some of the walkthrough stuff that we did, leading up to the Iowa State game, we had to squash all that, and we had to go to summer 2-a-day mode just to physically get everybody more ready. And it worked. So I think it's safe to assume that we all thought that we'd get the same thing this go-round. Again, not from some of the dudes that are banged up. Do you want Zane out there, Justin out there, Nick out there? Probably not. But that means you do want Gabe Brown out there. You do want some of the younger guys like Jonathan Agumadu. So you tell me, why would you guess that we're doing lighter practices instead of some heavy, intense ridiculousness? Let the young dudes go. If they can go all out, full speed, all day, every day, then let them do it. Because resting people is one thing. But when your team is playing pretty soft, I would assume that you would do the same thing as last year to harden them back up. So hopefully that does take place. I mean, this could very well easily just be a couple days of, all right, let's have some familiarity with Garrett Rangel and how we're gonna orchestrate the system now. Let's get some familiarity with maybe some of the backup running backs. Guys, I think it's time to see some LaDainian Fields. Just like I think it's a possibility that Rodney Fields is definitely good enough to play right now as well. I've been hooting and hollering about getting guys like Orlando Cleveland, Jonathan Agumadu, Gunnar Wilson. I mean, guys, put Armstrong Nodum in there. Like, Justin Kirkland is a beast, but I have a hard time fathoming how somebody can bench 500 pounds, squat like 700 pounds, and not being able to move offensive linemen out of their daggone way. So Armstrong Nodum physically can do a lot of the same things that Justin Kirkland can. So why not see it? Again, this is another thing that I mentioned in regards to keeping Brian Nardo. The dudes feel like that Brian Nardo he's not getting a fair shake as of yet. Of course, you want the young dudes confident, right? But we'd unfortunately heard that the scout team was beaten up on the starting O-line right before the SDSU game, or it was right after the SDSU game. And that was cause for concern, of course. But here we are this late into the season, and we have a lot of young dudes that are still performing at that clip, i.e. David Kabongo. So let them go bang it around heavy as all get out this whole week. Let the young dudes sort it out amongst themselves on who could potentially be one of the next guys in line. The political playing seniority over talent thing may not be accurate, but it may be. And this worries me a little bit if we're not going crazy, hot and heavy like we did last year to fix some of the same issues. But again, it could just be a couple days of being chill, all right? Could be a couple days of, again, familiarity and getting Rangel used to, the play calls, the system, the option routes, all of that. That makes some sense. But please, for the love of God, let the young dudes get out there and do something other than just being dominant on scout team. Do they know all the plays? No. Do they know all of the checks and where they're supposed to be all the time? Probably not. But tenacity and effort have been an issue this season. Tenacity and effort are something that you're typically going to get from young dudes or guys that are striving to earn a scholarship, like a Parker Robertson. So yes, I was a little in over my skis, ahead of the curve when it came to Charlie Dickey. But you and I both know that we'd have never known anything about Nick or Zane or Garrett or Mayolake or Bowman's current situation or the recruiting trail, coaches, all that. We wouldn't have known 99% of it. So I am apologetic that I was a little quick on the Charlie Dickey situation. But I cannot be apologetic about everything else. I mean, I guess I could be, but I'd be being disingenuous myself. This recruiting, covering 7-on-7, high school stuff, and coaching baseball lessons, pitching lessons specifically, it's all I do. All day, every day. I don't have a traditional 9-to-5 style of job, which is precisely why I am able to spend the hours and to make the trips and make the visits and watch the film and have the conversations and try to get things set up for people, all because I love Oklahoma State. And I just want us to take that next step. That next step is consistently winning Big 12 titles. Wasting this talent this season with this roster is the most maddening thing we've been through. But we dealt with this in 2020. We dealt with this in 2022. We're dealing with this now. It used to be we're going to be good enough to win a Big 12 title or compete for a Big 12 title every 3 to 4 years. Now it's every other year we have to completely rebuild the locker room. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Charlie Dickey's still here or Kasey Dunn's still here. I don't think Tim Rattay's been very good, but there's a decent amount of people that are a lot closer that disagree. I don't know. I think Coach McIndoe would do significantly better at offensive line than he is or has been at tight ends. Because some of this is just connect the dots. But we'll find out in due time. Until that due time comes, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day O State today. You already know the drill. Hit the like button. Hit this, leave the stars, leave the reviews, do what you do. My podcast and people out there, appreciate you. You know the drill. Later, taters.